Josh, can you just formally tell me about the foundation that you're beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's called the Josh Huestis Foundation, and it is a nonprofit that has been something I've wanted to start for a few years now. And now that I've stepped away from the game, it's become a passion of mine. I've always wanted to be involved in the state and to give back to the state that raised me, and specifically children in the state has always been a passion of mine to try to make a difference in that aspect. And starting up this nonprofit seemed like the most logical and the best way to be able for me to do that.
So in what ways do you see yourself giving back? How are you going to use this? What events are you going to have in order to give back to the community?
Yeah, so right now obviously it's the inaugural year, but one of the first things that we're doing is a basketball recruiting event where we're going to have the 50 best high school boys and girls basketball players are going to be invited to it, and it's going to be at Carroll College Memorial Day weekend, so May 28th and 29th of 2023, and I've invited over 100 different college coaches to come watch the best players in the state be able to compete against each other, and the goal of the foundation is to make it so that there's no financial burden for the families of the athletes for them to be able to attend it, as well as getting involved in the foster care system. That's something that I'm very passionate about because I'm adopted. And those are just like the beginning stages. I mean, I want this to be something that I can have a lot of different branches, a lot of different aspects of it that touch a lot of lives in Montana.
You kind of mentioned it being like going towards it being bigger than basketball. You mentioned it touching you personally because you're adopted. Can you just expand on how everything that you're doing now is so personal to you?
Yeah, I've always lived by this belief that if you're given a platform that you have a responsibility to use it for good. And, growing up in Montana and being so loved by Montanans and loving the state myself, I knew that if I ever made it to a position where I could have influence and be able to be given opportunities to help people, that it was going to be something I would be, destined to do and want to be able to do. And now that, I was able to play in the NBA overseas, played 8 professional years, I've been given this unique opportunity to be able to use that to make a difference, to use my, I don't know if you want to call it influence or whatever the case may be, to be able to help people. And, there's a lot of people in Montana that are, in need of help, especially kids. And if I can just make a difference in one person's life, then that's what I want to do.
Now, going back to the Montana Elite Invitational, that's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
You said you wanted one of the biggest things about that is it being you're trying to make it free to travel, to stay, and everything for all the campers. Can you just talk about that? Because I as a former basketball player, I know how expensive it can be to get to these camps, to stay for a duration of time out of state or out of town. Can you just expand on how big that is for you?
Absolutely. Like you said, it can be a huge financial burden to be able to give a kid an opportunity to be able to do all the things that are necessary for them to be able to play basketball at the collegiate level. For myself, I was blessed. My parents, were able to give me these opportunities to go to these camps, to play AAU. But that's, tens of thousands of dollars just over the course of my high school career to be able to do these things. And that is very unique. That's not something that a lot of people are able to afford. And I don't think that that's fair that an athlete may miss out on a college education and the ability to play college basketball purely because of a financial situation. And Montana is full of a lot of really talented players who fly under the radar because Montana is a large state. It's often overlooked and players are underestimated. I dealt with that myself. There was a lot of things that I had to do to prove myself as a player coming from Montana, and I think by putting all the best players together in one place and allowing coaches to see them compete, it will, lend credibility to the state of basketball, or to the state of Montana as a basketball state, and will hopefully draw more attention and give more athletes opportunities.
Now, as far as donating and fundraising the money, I understand you have a tailgate event coming up before the CMR Great Falls High School game. Can you just talk about that?
I do, yeah. So what we're doing, it's so October 21st, starting at 4 p.m., food starting at 4:30 at Kranz Park, which is 1600 3rd Avenue South, so right next to Great Falls High. And what it is I've got a man who's volunteered and donated his time to come and make barbecue. We're going to have pulled pork, burgers, sausages, hot dogs, mac and cheese, potatoes, beans, the whole setup, man. So it's all going to be there. There's going to be games. There's going to be music. There's going to be a silent auction with some really cool stuff. There's going to be like a signed helmet from the CMR football team, signed football from the Great Falls High football team, a Yeti cooler, a bunch of different really cool stuff up for the silent auction. And you know, for $10, just a $10 donation gets you a plate of as much food as you want, a drink, hang out, enjoy the festivities, be there to support the teams. Even if you're not going to the game, people can stop by and partake. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully we can raise a lot of money for my foundation to be able to do a lot of good.
Sounds like that's going to be a great time. Going forward, have you looked ahead to any future events that you might possibly want to hold?
You know, like I said, I'm still kind of exploring all these different things. Obviously, being involved in the sports scene in Montana is really important to me, so doing something like this is huge. You know, obviously, being a basketball player myself, I would love to find a way to do something during the basketball season. But yeah, we'll see where it all leads.
Sounds like a plan. I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to mention about the foundation?
Yeah, I mean, just specifically about like the tailgate, for instance, like I just, you know, we've got some great sponsors that I want to make sure that I, you know, recognize here, like Shields, and then there's Discount Meats is providing the food, and also Strobel's Rentals. I want to make sure I shout them out. They're the only locally owned rental place left in Great Falls, and they're donating chairs, tables, so without, you know, my sponsors, this would be a lot more difficult to do. So thank you to them, and I hope everybody can make it and come enjoy some good times.
Thank you to the sponsors, and thank you coming out, sharing this with us, and I hope everything turns out well for you.
Perfect. Appreciate it.
Thank you.